It was what you call a superstar international weekend, especially for we Nigerian fans, as Brazil took on the Super Eagles of Nigeria. Welcome to the Nutmeg on Guardian TV. My name is Solomon Fo, and Dennis returns to us in the studios to offer in-depth analysis on everything that happened in that Singapore friendly. How impressed were you with the Super Eagles in that particular fixture?
I was quite impressed to see that, they were able to hold their own against, World Cup winners, talking about the Seleções of Brazil, and then, they did give a fight in that match, and, having a draw against Brazil is no mean feat. I think it's an applause for the Super Eagles.
Yeah, top performance by many of the lads in that particular squad. And, all of this happened on the backdrop of, before the match, we were talking about Atlanta 96 and what it meant. And most of the people that really impressed in that game, most of them were probably not born, or they were too young to even have taken in that game. But to that game in particular, what are your takeaways from that particular fixture? I know a whole lot has been said about Joe Aribo, a whole lot has been said about Jamilu Collins, who was the left back, and he didn't quite impress in that fixture. Samuel Chukwueze, Victor Osimhen, and even the setup of the team itself. But for you now, what was your biggest takeaway from that fixture?
For me, the takeaway was actually the Super Eagles attacking line. Seeing that Chukwueze was, dazzling on the right side of the pitch, and then knowing that Victor Osimhen really gave, Brazil's defense a run for their money. Always putting Thiago Silva on the spot, and then seeing that Chukwueze's cross at every time he pulled them in were always threatening. And also, like you talked about, Joe Aribo, and then looking at his pairing with Wilfred Ndidi. Almost everything he did in that match was almost perfect. His interceptions, his passes, and then his interchange, also connecting the defense and to the attack. I think he did an excellent job. And the major takeaway for me is just been what we have always been talking about, knowing that this Super Eagles team is a team filled with, promising talent. And then I just hope that there is enough structure to keep these guys together and see them actualize, their potential.
Talking about structure, at some point in that game, the midfield looked particularly flat. There wasn't enough that was seen from Alex Iwobi in connecting the midfield and the attack. And also, when you look at the setup of the pivot, we're talking about the likes of Ndidi and Joe Aribo in that. We saw Aribo move the ball out of the defense, trying to get into the midfield. And then Ndidi
sitting deep.
Exactly. But we're looking at that space, that phase in the game where it was difficult to connect the midfield to the attack. And it was repeating itself all too well, because we saw the game against Ukraine and we saw how Alex Iwobi excelled and flourished in connecting both phases of the game. But this time we didn't see much of that.
It has just been the whole story of Alex Iwobi, to narrow it down to a personality, knowing that is the arrowhead in, Nigeria, trying to link all parts of the team, to the attack, which is the finishing point of any tactical play any team wants to employ, all throughout the World Cup as well. The Nations Cup, it was always said that, the Super Eagles of Nigeria, whether they play well or not, it's always, you get a 30% performance from Alex Iwobi. And then if he does shows up in the first half, there is a like chance that he might not show up in the second half. I think he has to work on his game, and then, moving also away from Alex Iwobi, like not centraling the whole blame on Alex Iwobi. I think the Super Eagles of Nigeria, at most parts of the game, did not get the ball, and of which I was not even expecting them to get the ball as much as the Brazilians did. But in all, I think the creative aspect of the Super Eagles of Nigeria is a position that really needs an urgent attention.
Yeah, talking about structure, we're going to be going to the coach, Gernot Rohr, in this one. Like many people have alluded to that, the team is insanely talented, and we're looking towards making a dent in the 2022 World Cup. But do you think Gernot Rohr is the man to really take us into that next phase, into that next step? He has done fantastic with the side. We've gone from not qualifying for the AFCON to finishing third at the AFCON, and this seems like another phase. Do you think this team is too talented for Gernot Rohr to really get the best out of?
It's quite difficult to call, because Gernot Rohr himself, like you did acknowledge, was quite pivotal from where Nigeria was, and you know, from he took off from Sunday Olise, you know, in the Super Eagles job. And then, as at that time, we did know that Nigeria could not qualify for 2 Nations Cup consecutively. And then it took Nigeria to qualify for the World Cup with a game to spare, qualify for the Nations Cup, and also take the team to, you know, 3rd place. But off that mark, you know, you expect this team to continue to accelerate in progress. You expect this team to, you know, continually do things that, you know, beat their own records themselves. But whether Gernot Rohr is the man to do it is what is quite difficult to call, because all throughout the World Cup, I saw a Gernot Rohr that, in my own opinion, had reached his peak with the Super Eagles of Nigeria, and there are no much progress he could make with the team. So if Nigeria is looking to, you know, make a mark with this talented side in the 2022 World Cup, I think Gernot Rohr might not be the man to do so.
Okay, now talking about the opponents that we faced, that's Brazil. We saw Neymar limp off the game with a hamstring injury very early in the first half, and obviously it was a drop in quality. But even the players that were still on show were still qualitative players. You had like of Casemiro, Gabriel Jesus, and Firmino. Now, for the Super Eagles to be able to stand toe to toe with that, how impressive do you think that is? You know, it's a really, really talented side. That's that Brazilian side. World beaters in that particular team. And you saw young players from the Super Eagles do really excellently in that one.
Yeah, I think it's quite commendable, like I said in the opening part of the show. But then, you know, even a whole lot of Nigerians that really, you know, sang praises of the Super Eagles of Nigeria on Twitter. You know, I read a post where a guy said Nigeria actually played against Real Madrid, played against Manchester City, played against
players from those places.
All of those teams all together, and were able to, you know, put up a draw. But for me, aside the fact that the Super Eagles of Nigeria, you know, did well, and then, but I think the result was actually a reflection of what has become of this Brazilian side, because ever since the 2018 World Cup in Russia, you know, the team has played 15 matches, and then they've won only 12. And then, you know, in their last 4 matches, it has been one loss and then 3 draws consecutively, together with these Super Eagles of Nigeria. So I just think it's high time, you know, Tite begins to look inward what might be the cause of this struggle for the Brazilian national team. And I think the struggle actually just continued against the match with Nigeria.
Or could it be that there has been improved opposition, the quality of opposition has improved, seeing that they played against Senegal and they ended 2-2, played against Nigeria, ended 2-2. Don't forget, these those 2 teams are the 2nd best, you would say, and the 3rd best teams on the African continent.
Maybe you could also look at it from the other angle, knowing that, you know, Brazil won the Copa America just in July, and then they've played 4 matches after then, and then out of the 4 matches, they've not been able to record a win. It has been a loss and then 3 draws. So I think it has just been a challenge of finding a new motivation for this team. And I think if Tite does find this motivation, the team should, you know, go back to their winning ways.
Yeah, away from Tite now to Gernot Rohr. Now, you said something, finding its winning ways. And let's not forget that we've still not won any game since the AFCON. Now, saying that we drew against Ukraine and we drew against Brazil, impressive results at that. But what do you think Gernot Rohr has to do for us to just push over that draw barrier?
I think, you know, pushing over that draw barrier, although I would not be holding for the Super Eagles of Nigeria to face maybe inconsequential opponents, you know, lesser than Brazil and Ukraine.
Just be able to get in the win.
To get a win. Really. But I also think that it's time for the boys, you know, these talented set of players, you know, to also, you know, push above their weight to, you know, prove to the world that indeed we are talented, and then we're putting these talents into work, and, you know, just get a win for the team, because they played against Ukraine. It was a 2-2 draw, which I think they should have gone ahead to win, you know.
Because they had gone into the lead.
And then I think that was actually hinged on, you know, tactical issues from Gernot Rohr. But the match against Brazil, I actually don't see them doing more than they did.
Well, they ran into the lead in those 2 games, and I think maybe it has something to do with their mentality of the defense.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for talking to us today, Dennis, on the show.
Always a pleasure.
So that's it for you on the Nutmeg on Guardian TV. Make sure you are subscribed to this YouTube channel if you're not already. There's awesome content always coming to you from Guardian Nigeria. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Nutmeg, and I am Solomon Fowe.